How is it going? My name is Japanovi and welcome to some Anime Reborn content. Today we're going to be making a tier list video here. So as you can see, we have our tier list maker right here. Just to get him out of the way here real quick, because he's supposed to talk about Speed Cart. Speed Cart's meta. You need Speed Cart, you need money, you have to have Speed Cart. He's meta, he's legendary, but he's meta, you have to have him. We're gonna go Yano in A tier. So obviously there is someone you can use that's better, that does Yano stuff better, but if you don't have that person, Yano is A tier. That's the next best thing you want to go to. And that's basically how this thing is going to be set up, is you kind of want to go off of meta. If you don't have the meta units, use the A replacements. Yeah, Yano right here, Suffocating Gale. He applies Suffocation. It slows him down by 50% for 15 seconds. The only downside to this is that there is a 15-second cooldown after it expires. So for 15 seconds, they're slow, and then for 15 seconds, they're no longer slow. And that 15 seconds they're no longer slow and they can't be slowed again, they're gonna run past. So once you get to the high stages, it's gonna really suck because they are gonna be slow for that 15 seconds, but trust me, it takes more than 15 seconds to kill these guys at wave 90 and up. Next up is gonna be Yamo. Dark types get 35% more damage. The dark damage boost, especially 35%, is really crazy, and there are actually a lot of dark units in the game here. So yeah, with that being said, he gets increased crit chance, increased crit damage, and then he buffs dark damage dealers by 35%. 35% is really high. That's actually a really good increase. For that, I think we're gonna give him A tier, because the damage potential that he increases is actually really up there. I think it's worth running, but we're gonna move on to the next is gonna be Piccolo. Piccolo is one of the adventure units that came out, and he has pure power. After 40 eliminations, he gets 35% damage increase, 25% range increase. It lasts for 45 seconds, but then once that 45 seconds is up, it's on a cooldown for 45 seconds and he can't do it again. But it's that cooldown of 45 seconds. When it comes down to infinite, you need it procced all the time, because yes, that buff is going to help in those 45 seconds, but the 45 seconds in which he doesn't get the buff, it's not going to help. It's actually going to be detrimental, because then he's going to be too weak to really be helping, and you might as well just have someone who's better. His next thing is going to be Shared Misery. The first 5 units within his range get 15% boss damage increase. Now, I've tried playing around with this. I've tried seeing if this could be viable and worth it. In my opinion, in my personal opinion, it's not worth it. 15% boss damage increase isn't that much. There's other units out there that can do exactly what he's trying to do, but instead of just making it pure boss damage increase, they can buff everyone entirely. So we're gonna put him on a C tier, I think. Yeah, we'll put him on a C. Nothing's really good enough about him to warrant him really being on anyone's team. Moving on to Pain, do we even have to talk about it? He's D tier. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that he's D tier, because a lot of people, if you've been playing for long enough, you understand that Pain is like always not recommended to people. There's other units that can do things better. Like, I mean, God forbid, like Rookie can stun better than that, because Rookie freezes them every attack for 3 seconds. So you might as well just use like a Rookie at that point. Pain's not really worth it. Every 4th attack stuns. It's not really worth it. So he's going to D tier. He's not good. I don't recommend running him like in any stance. Not even in story mode. That's why I don't even have him level 50. Next up is going to be Oda. Oda, I've really tried. I've wanted Oda to be good. I've really tried to make Oda good. The thing about Oda is he just takes so much setup. I think it's like 15% at Samurai Spirit 1, but once you evo him, it goes up to 40%, his crit rate. So he can have a crit chance and crit damage increase of 40% if you put 10 units next to him. And then you can add Captain's Presence. Now you're looking at 55%, and that's pretty much the max on that. You could just run a Delta Brothers and do more DPS than he could if he had 100% crit rate. I really did want to like him. I really did. If you showed up to any of my streams, you've seen I grinded him out. I grinded Yamo out, and then I wanted to see if I can build a team around it. It's just not too worth it. So we're going to put him on D tier. Yeah, we're going to put him on D tier. The only way to make him worth it is to run a team to strengthen him and make him worth it. And that's unfortunate, because then you have to run a lot of people who aren't meta just to make Oda worth running. Next is going to be Lucky One. He can stun pretty often. it's pretty cool. He can get a lot of stuns out. I'd say it's better than Rookie because Rookie's attack rate is 6.52. So when it comes to between Rookie and Lucky One, definitely Lucky One because his DPS is higher, his stun rate is higher. I don't know if I would say he's meta or not, but I'd say he's worth running. He's a good support just like Yano. I'd probably say a better support than Yano because that 15 seconds of not being able to slow is kind of sketchy. So moving on to the next one, we got Hawkeye. Now, Hawkeye was pretty meta back in the day. Now I say was. So Hawkeye does nothing to anyone else except for bosses, and that kind of really puts him down. His DPS isn't worth using him too much. And mind you, Slayer is the best thing to have on him because then that increases how much damage he does to bosses even more. And that's what he's designed for. It's a boss Slayer. I don't think he's worth it because he kind of just hurts the rest of the game having him. But we'll put him at B tier. Like I said, he's good if you're losing to bosses and you have other units to deal with the ads, but he's not going to be on my team. I'm not going to run him on my team. Coming up next, we got Greybeard. Greybeard is another great choice. He can be pretty strong. So every wave, he can deal 20% more damage. So after 20 waves, he gets 20% damage boost, which is pretty strong. It's pretty strong, you know, it's pretty good. I've got Miracle on him because I was using him for so long that I needed Miracle on him. He was a great carry for me for a long time. I still use him. He's hybrid on placement, which is really strong. He's still a great member to have. And then after 30 eliminations, the next attack he does will stun the enemies. It's like a worse version of Pain. He is AoE, so he is good at getting a lot of kills at once. But when you get to those high waves, those high waves in Infinite, you're not getting kills too often. Like it takes like about a minute or 2 minutes just to get a couple kills. So as much as I love Greybeard, and trust me, I do love Greybeard, he's carried me through so much, he's not going to be a meta guy, but his damage potential is still good. It's still out there. He's AoE, which is good because then it deals with everything. Another issue you kind of have is like you're just dealing DPS to the very front, and then you kill the front, and then the back units are inching up, and they still have their full HP. So the AoE helps. I'd say he's A tier. I would say if you don't have the meta units, run Greybeard then. Greybeard's really good at that. The next unit we're going to be looking at is going to be Goku. His DPS is pretty good. He's another hill unit. Like I said, he's a decent unit. He's pretty good. He's got good potential. He can be doing some good stuff, especially if you evo him, get good traits on him. I just didn't care about him too much. I'm not a big fan of hill units personally. I think the prime potential placement parts aren't hills. I think the hills are like hurting your damage potential where you have to place them. So I don't personally like the hill units, but his damage potential is up there. He could be good to you. So we'll put Goku on, we'll put him on B tier. We'll put him on B tier because of the hill placements. Unfortunately, like the hills aren't really good spots to place some of these units. So we're going on Broly. Broly next is an AoE unit, hybrid on placement, both really good things. Where I'm going to place Broly personally is I'm going to put him on A tier. Again, A tier for me is like if you don't have meta tier, you're running something from A tier. Broly is just a really strong powerhouse. He gets 20% increased range, and then he gets 50% increased damage. So after he's attacking 50 times, he gets 50% damage boost. After he's attacking 20 times, he gets 20% range boost. That 50% damage boost is nice. That's a really high damage boost. 50% is probably higher than any of the other damage boost outside of like Mihawk 250% boost, but it's 50% to everyone. And when I mean everyone, I mean everyone, because he does it to the bosses, he does it to the normal mobs, he does it in an AoE. He's hitting everyone 50% harder, which can be really strong. His range is just really weak. That's the only unfortunate thing about Broly. But his potential here with these buffs and whatnot are really strong. He's AoE. He can hold down a lot. AoE units can be pretty powerful. So for that, for Broly's damage potential of increasing his damage by 50% and being AoE, we're putting him in A tier. He'd be a solid choice to run. He would be a really solid choice to run. I would run him over that. Next up is Asta. Asta, as we've seen before, he gets buffed by Yamo, So obviously we have to put him on A tier. It doesn't really need too much explaining. If you're running Yamo, you're running Asta, there's no point to run one without the other. Like if you're running one, might as well run the other one. He instantly breaks shields, which can be cool, but you have a lot of units like Broly does multi-hit, Yano multi-hit. A lot of units can do multi-hit, so it's not really too important to have instant break shields. Gohan is a hard to say thing. This is where we start actually seeing some like potential for meta. I would say Gohan is meta. Obviously his damage is insane. His damage can be really insane. You can place up to 3 of them, but his potential for DPS is absolutely absurd. He gets up to 100% damage increase every wave, but it resets every wave. That's a thing too. Plus the 25% damage increase that he gets all game. Plus he's immune to stuns. So bosses can't stun him. Exploders can't stun him. It's really strong. Like it's going to be meta. Like I can't think of any other reason not to say he's meta. So he's meta. Like it's Gohan. Gohan is goated. Everyone knows Gohan been goated. We're moving on fast here because these guys are just like, it's no arguing. People know that they're strong. If you want to argue on this one, it's up to you. Nanami's meta. 35% damage increase across the board. His other thing is like a crit chance. We don't really care about the crit chance. Nanami's 35% damage increase for 10 seconds is crazy. You can make all your units deal 35% more damage. So you can place 5 other units, but you say you're going to run a speed card though. So you can place 4 other units, 4 times 35, 140% damage increase across the board, all your units hitting. It's worth it. It's worth it to run it. The number is above 100%, so like him alone, even if he did 0 damage, he's doing 120% of increased damage of all your other units. That's basically a unit by itself right there. So might as well run him, especially with really strong powerhouses. The power increase could really help. Next up is Yune. Yune is not hybrid, but she does have a bleed. Contrary to popular belief, Yune does not do counter regen. Nothing counters regen. You can apply a bleed, they're still going to keep regenning through it. It doesn't matter. But she is really strong though. She is really strong. She can do multi-hits, she can hit really hard, she can attack really fast, and she's not too expensive to play, she's not too expensive to upgrade. She's a good unit. She's a really good unit. She's just not a meta unit. That's all. She does apply scars. Like I said, the scars bleed. It's 5 ticks of bleeds. And then while they're scarred, she does increase damage to them again. So if she hits again while they're scarred, they're taking increased damage. Delta Brothers, meta. The meta of the meta. There's nothing stronger than Delta Brothers. Everyone knows that Delta Brothers is the best. He does do like increased damage as time goes on. Every 10 hits, his SPA is decreased by 5% up to 20%, and then every 20 hits, he gets 5% increased damage up to 30%. So he can increase his damage potential just by getting hits. The main thing for Delta Brothers is he gets a nuke. His nuke does about, for me at least, it does about 200,000 damage. That's pretty intense. And then when he does nuke, his damage increases higher, and then his range increases higher as well. So his DPS is insane. It's the highest DPS in the game after you drop that nuke. There's nothing that does more damage than him. His damage potential is just too crazy to not run him. He's meta. You have to run him if you want to make leaderboard. There's no way you make leaderboard without him. Moving on to Time King. Time King is also meta. Does SPA decrease? Looking at Time King here, as you can see, I'm rocking the Time King aura there. It's pretty sick. But looking at Time King here, it is time acceleration. Everyone gets 10% quicker attacks. That's really cool. That helps DPS potential. Like I said, SPA is really cool for DPS potential. The other thing is 55% slow, depending on how close they are to him. So the closer they get to his unit, the closer they get to him, they get slowed up to 55%. And then the further they get, the slow decreases and they get faster. But they get slowed the entire time. There's not like a cooldown on it. They don't have to be attacked by it. Like everyone in his entire range gets slowed all the time, constant, nonstop. It makes him a really big powerhouse to have on Infinite. Then his ability too. His ability is a time stop. So it's basically a freeze for like 5 seconds. He can freeze everything in his range. And his range is pretty high too. Don't get me wrong, his range is crazy. So everyone in his range gets slowed. And then whenever he activates his time stop, it's once every 70 seconds. Then they get frozen for 5 seconds. They can't move. Like, it's just a really OP unit to have. Like you have to run him. He's really strong. Everyone that's doing infinite leaderboards is using Time King. Next one up is Mercury. I think Mercury is also a meta for infinite. His summons aren't really that great. Like they aren't that amazing potential. They are really strong. They are really strong. They can help. They can help like add on to his DPS. His DPS can be pretty good. The main thing about Mercury that you run him for infinite isn't his summons, because his summons don't really do much. It's his attacks ignore elemental damage debuffs. That's really insane. That like his passive alone was designed for infinite, because that's the only place that I've seen elemental debuffs is infinite. So for that, we put him in meta. Next one up is going to be 21. 21, I would argue, isn't meta. Her damage potential isn't too crazy. Like I said, hill units aren't too great. The placement spots for the hill units aren't great. Like they aren't the most maximized potential that you could have, but she could still be good. She could increase people's range. She increases her own range before Evo, but after Evo, she increases people's range. Range is good, you know, more range means more damage. More damage means more whittling down, but it's just not too great. Like I said, if you don't have some of these units that I've already listed here, because that's already 6 there on meta, run Android 21. Like if you need someone damage potential, run 21. If you don't have any of those that are good, just use her. If you have a better trait on her than one of these guys as no traits, I would run her. But like I said, Time King, you kind of need Time King for the slow. If you don't have Time King, then run Yano. You don't really have anyone stunning in the meta team, so if you don't have any good traits on any of these, I would recommend running Lucky in replace of one of these that have like low damage potential. Like if you don't have Gohan, run Lucky. If you don't have Nanami, run Lucky. Yeah, it's just like you go meta, you gotta run meta, swap out for A tier, mess around with your teams, you know. This is just my personal opinion. You could have a better opinion on any of these. But yeah, she's A tier. Her damage potential isn't too great because of the hill placements, but she does do pretty big damage. Like her damage is decent, and then her hit circle is really big. She can hit like a big circle of a lot of people at once, which is pretty cool, and the range increase is cool. So I do almost recommend running her if you don't have any good traits on any of these other units. Same thing with Kaido. Kaido I wouldn't really recommend running either. Like if you don't have one of these units, run Kaido. For me, I don't have a good trade on Kaido, so I don't really like him. I think even if I did have a good trade on Kaido, I wouldn't really care. He's just so freaking expensive to upgrade. He costs like 200k to upgrade. But yeah, Kaido goes to A tier. I would rather run Android 21 than a Kaido. Kaido can decrease special abilities. I believe it's by like 15%. So he can make 15% more nukes, more freezes. So it could be strong to run him. If you have good traits on him, it could be strong to run him. He could potentially help you out a lot. More freezes would help. More nukes would help. But really, like I said, the cost of using him is just too high, and then his range isn't that great. That's why I had Archer on him. He does do AoE, which kind of helps, but I mean, I think there's better units to run. He just costs too much. Having the extra money to be able to spam freeze on Time King is really too beneficial to use. But yeah, this is my tier list here. I don't have some of the new units on here, unfortunately. I took this pictures like a while ago. I made this on 12/14, yeah, before Noel and before Light came out. But if I had to put them, I would say Light is going to meta because he buffs Delta Brothers, and Light's mimicry, his summons, dude, they're like the only things I can think of that counter the regens at high waves. So run Light, put Light up here. Light is meta, he's a meta unit. And then Noel, I'd probably put her as B tier. I tried to use Noel. I even got on the leaderboard with Noel. I used her to increase how much money I was making so I can spam Delta Brothers nukes. You can't spam Delta Brother nukes anymore, so it's not really too important. You could still probably use her to increase how much money you make and then spam Time King stops. I've been playing around with the team so much trying to get on the leaderboard again. I've gotten really close, but without the Delta Brothers nukes, I feel like it's really hard to get up there. I'd put her in A tier. Run Noelle in A tier for increased money, so that way you can spam Time King stops, and then Light is 100% a meta unit. So yeah, that's my tier list there. Sorry I don't have the pictures for Light and Noelle, but yeah, Light up here in meta, Noelle up here in A. That's it. If you disagree with anything I put on here, comment why. If you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. Check out the other videos on the channel. If you have any suggestions or whatnot, what to do next, like somebody suggested I do a tier list for cosmetics. I think that'd be kind of funny, but I don't have all the cosmetics, unfortunately. But it'd be kind of funny, though. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. You're an amazing community. I love you guys so much. As always, take care of yourself. Make sure you eat some food, drink some water, and as always, I love you. Have a good one.